And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 112, with our second edition of our ADP pocket analysis, 150 through 200 tonight. We did 100 through 150 last week, and we'll get you going here and talk, positions and stats and so on and so forth, fades, debates, and more. Before we do that, you can find me on Twitter at BDentric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my co-host, as always, on the Twitter at Ryan BHQ. Ryan Bloomfield. How we doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. Drafting like crazy. TGF in the middle of TGFBI. We've got Tout Wars this time next week. Kind of.
We'll be done.
8 o'clock.
We'll be done this time next week.
We'll be drowning our sorrows this time next week, or you will be at
I'll
least.
say you will be. It sounds like.
Trying to avoid all of this spring training craziness. Like I feel like we were talking about a little bit before. I feel like more than ever, and I don't know, I'm not sure what's driving it. Probably StatCast at the where it's available in certain spring training parks. But I feel like there's more information than ever coming out of these early spring games. So it's kind of like I always forget about this every year, but like I'm always excited to kind of watch some games and go sit back, watch some spring training. But then I kind of forget about the deluge of information coming out from it. It's a wild time. How tuned in are you to early spring training games?
I'm not at all right now for the most part. Like, I check things here and there, but I'm telling you off the air, this week has been like the busiest week I've had in a few months, at least, between work and other things. So I've just been checking in and out, posting content by annoying people and just ignoring it as best I can. When I do see it, it makes me chuckle, though. Like you were saying, so-and-so threw 26 pitches and was averaging 98. Okay, so is he an eighth inning guy now, or is he going to? I said basically, let me know when he goes 5 or 6 innings and throwing 96 even in that stretch. Yeah. Then we can talk. Like it's cool. Like optimism is key. I'm not trying to be the party pooper here, but at the same time, so many people like preach. Just be patient. This is spring training. Like I can't remember who it was. It was on my the labor feed. You mentioned, Joe Musgrove. And you mentioned someone hit a home run, or it was Christopher Morel at 2 home runs. They said, who was the second one off of? And it was Jesse Chavez. So it's like Jesse context Chavez is key in this spring training stuff.
Yeah. And not to be a negative Nancy, because there's some important stuff to come out of spring. Like I think lineups and playing time are huge. But I just think I don't know if I want Tariq Skubal, for example, throwing 100. Right
That's
now.
Another
like
thing,
it's almost like don't want to see that given his injury history, but things like that where velocity's up, it's probably a good thing, but I want to see that hold over, like you were saying, 5-6 innings, and it's going to be a few weeks still, or at least a couple weeks until we start seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like it's important. Like not gonna say it's not, but it's not. I don't think as important as people are making it out to be. So, like I appreciate what the King is doing, King Kerwin, with his lineups, keeping track of that because. Right now it's early, so it's still kind of wonky, but what he uses now, the trends that continue on is where that becomes very important. So that's good to see. I guess if anything, like the platoon parts of that. But most of these guys aren't even in a rush to play. Like Ohtani DH'd finally when Opotaka, which was great. It's like the NBA right now. Good luck playing back-to-back. Like it's a lot of rest management stuff. So I'm still like, once they cut down the roster the first time through, you start to get a little better feel, and then the second roster cuts when you're ready to rock and roll. So yeah, we're good. It's fun. It's great to have it back. I'll say that much. But
absolutely. I was also kind of off this weekend. We neither of us did Potapalooza, unfortunately, but you did make up for it with your Friday night auction. Which, by the way, like honestly, our listeners kick ass.
Awesome. Yes. Yes,
like you pledged, I forget what exactly, $50
for every 100 views on YouTube.
Yeah. And then our listeners came in and like, I'll pledge, whatever these guys go for in the auction or I'll match it. So thanks to everyone who not only tuned into Bubba's stream on Friday. I was only there for like 20 minutes and I bailed, but for anyone who contributed, not on our behalf, but contributed to Fantasy Cares through your stream on Friday night. That was cool.
Yeah, it was awesome to see you guys. We were just kind of thinking of something for fun to kind of do something, and you guys ran with it. So that's great to see.
Hey, and Mike Curlin got his final wish. Remember,
To be on
to actually be on the
yeah.
show. It was after weeks of asking listener questions, can I be on the show? We finally, you finally let Curlin through, gave him the link.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and that was one of them. Speaking,
you needed
of that,
it, man. That was a long stream.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
And thanks to Curlin and Justin Mason who joined you as well. So thanks.
And speaking of which, Curlin always says because he wants to be on an FSWA nominated show. We're recording this on Tuesday night. As of Wednesday morning / afternoon, you'll know if we won or not. Let's put it that way, because the awards are getting announced. So
that's right.
Cross your fingers for the homeboys.
It is award day. We're one of 7 finalists, so I don't have my hopes up, but we'll have the phone on around us.
We'll see what happens. Adam in the chat says the only thing I'm paying attention to is older pitchers' velocity. Usually, older pitchers take a ramp up time, but if they are hitting it already, that excites me in Nate Eovaldi. That is true. That is true.
Yeah, we'll actually talk about Eovaldi later on, but that was very true for him last year, and that paid off for a little bit.
Joe Orico's in the chat saying he's rooting for us, so we appreciate it. Joe Orico.
Yep.
Who's been busy as well on the streaming world. So go check all that fun stuff out. Anything else before we get into our 150 to 200?
No. Yeah. Next show will be Tout Wars on Tuesday, March 5th at 8 p.m.
Next show will be Thursday.
Oh, God.
February 29th at 8:30 or 9-ish p.m. Pacific time.
Don't listen to me anymore. I'm too excited for Tout. I guess.
Excited to get. Just ask Ryan what his career record is against me in most leagues, and he's really excited for some reason.
Ask how many rounds of golf I've had to pay at First Pitch Arizona compared to Bubba.
It's okay. The leagues I beat you and pay for that golf pretty easily.
That's the proper comeback. The leagues you won were $1,000 each, and golf was not.
Yeah,
golf was not.
It covers
maybe $80. Yeah, so I think you are ahead.
Yeah, but it's all good. It'll be fun. Yes, Tout Wars will be an electric one if you guys liked Labor. That was awesome, but now you get both of us drafting against each other. So not just me talking trash about make sure you draft Tyler Glass now. Now it'll get more fun in that regard. All right, we're going to do ADP 150 to 200, last 15 RotoWire online challenge. It's about a week. They've been doing about 14 to 15 per week on this one. So, Ryan, the floor is yours with this board.
Yeah, we flipped the ADP over from it was a good idea, Bubba, last time from Draft Champions to, which is a 15-team draft and hold format. We are now at the point of draft season where I feel like the draft and holds are starting to kind of wane out, and we're going more into the fab leagues. And plus, I believe more of you all play 12-teamers than 15-teamers. So these are 12-team fab leagues, the online championship from the NFBC, and it's the last 15 drafts. So pretty recent and relevant ADP, though Cody Singh is still on here. It'll take a little while for him to filter out. But anyway, got the boards up for the YouTube and the live stream crowd, which is basically just a list of all the hitters in one list with their ATC projections, and then all of the pitchers with their ATC projections on the right side. Instantly what stands out to me in this 150 to 200 group on the pitching side, Jose Alvarado is the lone soldier, is the lone closer. There is no other closer being taken in this group. We hinted at this or brought this up on our reliever podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. Obviously my track record with time, it's not that great, but you need to have at least one, maybe two closers by this point. And in 12-teamer, maybe just one, but you are not getting closers at this portion of the draft. I'll let you talk about kind of what we're seeing on the hitting side. One other pitching takeaway that I see is you're starting to see some ugly ratios. You're starting to see some ugly projected ratios, some red on the screen. A bunch of these starting pitchers that we're going to talk about tonight have projected ERAs north of 4, have projected whips north of 1.25. This is an important part of the draft to not nuke your ratios, because some of these guys can and will do that type of damage. So those are the two big on the pitching side, the big takeaways, just the one closer, Alvarado, and the the introduction of some shaky ratios.
Yeah, shaky ratios, but it's also, to me, it's a nice pocket of pitching. Like you have the elite guys early in the draft, and then around, at least in 12s, in rounds like 4 through 6, you have another nice pocket of starting pitching. And then this is like that third wave of you can see potential, but could also potentially crush you at the same time, which Ryan is talking about with the ratios. But there's a lot of names we're going to talk about later in the show between fades, debates, and more, and targets and whatnot. A lot of good pitching here because in the previous episode on Thursday, there wasn't a ton of pitching we liked, really. It was more of a get your bats, whatever. Now this is why you get your bats then, you come get some pitching now. That's the kind of yin and yang. But on the hitting side, there are a lot of bats I like too. Stolen bases are slowly dwindling or quickly dwindling, depends on how you want to look at this. You have 220-plus guys in Friedel and Edman, and that's if you really believe that. That's like kind of a point of contention.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not an Edman guy, you're not a big Friedel guy, so that we could probably argue both those and see where that one goes. And then other than that, you got a couple 15-ish or Stories there at 20, I guess, missed him. A lot of red in that department. Average is pretty much out the window outside of like 3 guys. You do got some pop still, and the big takeaway is this is your catcher window. This is the one.
Here we go. Here we go. Look at him.
But this is the one I've talked about it forever. Make fun of me all you freaking want.
Here we go. I was waited all weekend for this episode to call this one out.
Hey, I've said forever that there's like 15, 16-ish catchers I'm cool with that I want to get like at least one for sure, if not both, in that range. Well, this is the cutoff point in this range. So that does exist. If you look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 catchers in this range. So it's a healthy catcher's department, and it's a healthy corner infield department early on in this draft. So it spreads out for the most part, but corner infield and catchers. And then there is a section of outfielders. I'll let you have the floor here, where this is a good one. If you wait on outfielders, this is another pocket you could have some fun with. So what are you seeing here before I just name off every player?
Yeah. Wait on outfielders. Bloomfield here chiming in. This is where I
by the way, Bloomfield checks in on my auction last night where I have no outfielders in an auction. Needless to say, I get a text. Hey, it looks like you need a few outfielders out there.
You had like $36 left and no outfield. I was like, man, you've been hanging out with me too much lately. My big takeaway on the hitting side with this pocket from 150 to 200, it seems like there's more power, or at least just as much power as the 100 to 150 group that we talked about last week. Like you can get power here. The problem, and this is why I've been on my early batting average crusade, and Bubba, you mentioned this, there are just a ton of like 240, 230, some in the 220 projected batting average. This is where batting average starts to like really fall. So if you are going to take some of these power bats that are available, especially towards the back half of this group, it's going to cost you in batting average. And if you don't have that cushion built up early in drafts, it can be tough to make it up. So that was the one big thing is for me, the batting average drain is alive and well here, particularly on the back half of the hitter side.
Yeah, no, that's very, very valid. So, and I like the call on the power, though, because you could still get quite a bit of it here, especially with our boy Berger up top. That is a fun one.
I mean, you've got how many? 5? Where's my? Jeez, my eyes. You've got your eye appointments on Wednesday, right?
Yes, yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. I might have glasses. Well, they probably won't happen that quickly, but yeah, it's coming quick.
We've got 9 hitters in this group projected for over 25 home runs. So
that's big. That's big because last time I think we had like maybe 4. I felt like I'm just top of my head 4 or 5.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
Wasn't very many. So quick, easy takeaway: average declines tremendously. Stolen bases declines tremendously. Still have some pop. Pitching side of things, ratios are about to get crazy. So jump aboard and pretty much no closers. So that's like you'd want your closers before this. I think you want your catchers in this pocket. That's kind of so by the end of 200, I'd want all my closers and all my catchers. Let's put it that way.
And you're taking your second, you want your closers before this pocket because there are none in here, and you're taking your second catcher, or even I I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you might be fine with 2 catchers in this group.
Oh no, I said it flat out. I'll double tap in here.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I'll double tap. I've done it many times. I've walked away with many shares in this range, and we'll talk about a few of these guys coming up. But yeah, there's some of my favorites are here. Let's just put it that way. And Bo Naylor and Logan O'Hoppe. So definitely, the big smile on my face for watching on YouTube, which is a great podcast to tune in on. Didn't realize there'd be this many catchers on here, but now I know what we're doing the rest of the day. Any final thoughts from the boards before we start talking ADP battles?
Let's do it.
All right. You have the floor out the gate, Mr. Bloomfield.
All right. So this one and I know the easy answer might be roster construction, but I just noticed 2 shortstops going roughly the same area here in Willy Adames, or really right next to each other, 194 and 198. So it is towards the end, but it's Willy Adames and Ezequiel Tovar. I feel like, and this is kind of the classic. So like Tovar is going to get you more steals, projected for 13 compared to Adames' 6. Adames is one of those power bats that we talked about, projected for 27, but is going to hurt you in batting average. It's just interesting to see 2 shortstops going. This is probably your middle infield, realistically, on your team. Hopefully, it's interesting to see 2 different profiles like this going right next to each other. I think I lean Tovar. I think there's at least like another level to what we saw from Ezequiel Tovar. I like the projection, kind of the all around 263, 16 and 16 homers and 13 bags. So I lean Tovar over the 2, but it was just interesting. If you're going to wait on shortstop, you do have a couple options at middle between those 2 guys. Do you have a strong preference between the 2? I know Willie was your boy last year, but
yeah, I don't think Willie will be as bad as he was last year. So if you want to take a chance on Willie, if you need late power, it's a good source. But I am really excited about Ezequiel Tovar this year. I think it's the guy that I've had circled in a lot of places. Tried to get him in the auctions, didn't work out so well. But like we saw 15 and 11 and 253 last year in 153 games. He's going to be 22 years old this year. There's a pedigree to him. There's some pop. There's some definite speed and good bat-to-ball skills. You mentioned ATC's projections of 16, 13, and 263. The Bat X has 17, 15, and 273. We're talking Coors Field here, where obviously the BABIP's going to be tremendous, which we saw a 328 BABIP last year. That probably stays the same. But I think there's good power here, like 15 to 20 home run power. But more important, I think the speed's legit, like very, very legit. So this is one of those guys that could, like what I've always talked about with Geloff, like this is Tovar. Tovar's Geloff with a better batting average. But in reality, like that's what I could see potentially taking place there. And you get him a lot later in the draft. So I like Tovar quite a bit. And it's a good power speed combo with, and you mentioned in this range batting average, he's not going to crush you in batting average compared to so many other guys here.
And I think the other thing too is I think he might be like a plate appearance leader.
Yeah,
among this group,
top of the order.
And at bats, plate appearances are starting. Will start in. We'll probably see this in the next episode, maybe the next 2. Regular playing time and racking up plate appearances is going to be huge. And I think Tovar, Curlin's got Tovar on MLBPlayingTime.com as leadoff against lefties. He has Charlie Blackmon leading off against righties.
That
with
happened
Tovar
a lot
down
last year, so it's probably right.
So maybe Tovar doesn't lead off all the time, but I don't know.
Does Blackmon play all season?
Exactly.
Yeah, Blackmon play all season?
Like fading a Charlie Blackmon at this point in his career is probably fine. So I think that's another big thing in Tovar's favor compared to a lot of these guys around him is he is going to rack up those plate appearances.
Yep, 100%. I like Tovar quite a bit, so he is a target. My first debate here, and to me it's a fun one because I kind of had interest in both these guys. Obviously, one more than others, if you guys have paid attention. But it's James Outman and Christopher Morel. And this is a fun one because, Outman, even last season, we saw 23 and 16 and 151 games at 248 average. He lived up to the hype. You love that stat line. Projections have him only playing like 130 games, going 19 and 12 and the 233, a massive batting average drop. Have your discussions there if you so choose. Then you got Christopher Morel, 26 bombs in 107 games, 247 average, 6 steals. ATC's got him for 26, 10, and 242. I think the power is just, there's no respect there in 129 games. But both these guys have pretty decent power. I think Morel's more power. Outman's more speed. Batting average is probably pretty close between the two, honestly, when all things are said and done. So how do you kind of do this Outman versus Morel debate?
I think I lean Morel, but I also think Morel's going to be a little bit pricier as we go deeper into draft season, especially if he keeps hitting home runs off of the aforementioned Jesse Chavez. That's somewhat tongue in cheek. Morel will probably pick up. I mean, if this third base experiment sticks, he will pick up obviously third base eligibility to go with, I guess, just outfield. Damn, Morel played 19 games at second base last year.
Yep.
That's tough.
So close. And he should play a lot of third base this year. That's the kind of plan. So
yeah, that's plans can go awry. Let's see how the defense holds up.
I agree, but if that happens, that helps a ton as well.
Yeah, I think the playing time is safer. I don't know. We'll see with Outman if he plays regularly against lefties. Wasn't particularly bad against lefties last year, but LA really does like to maximize platoons in the bottom of the order. So I'd lean Morel as well, but I also think that that Morel will get more expensive as we get deeper.
I will give King Curlin credit. Outman he's in against lefties and righties, but against lefties, he does have him as a potential platoon with the whole addition of Enrique Hernandez. You have Chris Taylor there. You have a lot of moving parts, but I think they want it because they also like Morel's defense in center field, which is pretty nice as well.
Outman had I just looked this up, but so I mentioned Outman against lefties. 357 OBP against lefties last year for James Outman. 154 plate appearances. So, I mean, not a crazy high sample, and a lot of that was like a 400 BABIP, so that probably doesn't hold, but Outman did hold his own.
Way better than Max Muncy. She's got that going for him.
Way better than Max Muncy.
The Knob says, I think the batting average drops with Outman. The quality of contact is extremely average, and the contact rates have been insanely terrible over the last few years. And Adam Reckcamp, Morel changing positions tells me he will get more playing time. That's the goal. That is the goal on this one. Right. What's your next one?
All right. What the hell is my next one? Oh, just to placate you.
I was about to say you played with my heart on this one.
Just to placate you. No, in all seriousness, I agree. This is the time to get your second catcher, or if you're going to wait on catchers,
you better leave with at least one by the time this is over with.
Let's compare two teammates from last year, Jonah Heim and Mitch Garver. Obviously split time, or at least split injury time with each other in Texas last year. Garver's now with Seattle, while Heim is the primary man in Texas. I prefer Heim, but I don't think there's I really just put this on the sheet just to get your opinion. I prefer Heim just because I still think Garver can get hurt, even though he's going to DH. The guy always gets hurt. You can get hurt DHing. You can get hurt swinging, running, that sort of thing. That the risk is obviously a little bit lower than if you are playing defense. But I just like Texas's lineup so much more too. Jonah Heim had 95 RBI last year. He won't repeat that, but it's just a testament to what a lineup like Texas can do for runs and RBI compared to a Seattle lineup, which is, outside of Julio, pretty lacking right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mitch Garver's played 100 games once in his career, but 87 last year, which is good for fourth in his career. We love Garver. He's always been a pretty good hitter when he can stay healthy, but it stays healthy is the problem. Even a DH for Seattle, he won't even DH the full time because there's other options there. They keep adding actual people that can hit the baseball in Seattle. So Garver will play a lot, but he's got to stay healthy. And if he played more than 110 games, I'd be shocked. And if he does that, it's still a good season. Don't get me wrong. But Garver goes back to the argument I gave last year about streaming catchers. He was a streaming catcher last year. That's who he was. Jonah Heim, on the other hand, I'm with you. I love Jonah Heim. He was obviously one of the best catchers last year, even with missing time. Before he got hurt, he was, I think, the best catcher in fantasy. You mentioned still having 95 RBIs with 131 games, 501 plate appearances. That's great for a catcher. Hit for average. 289 BABIP isn't insane to think about for his skills. Got some pop. I'm with you. There's really no one in Texas to chase him for at-bats either. whereas Garver is just praying to DH and maybe occasionally catch for Cal Raleigh. So yeah, it's Heim for me. Like I'm not opposed to Garver as a catcher too, if you need to. Just know there's a great chance you're going to be streaming a catcher at some point this season. Where Heim, albeit any catcher can get hurt at any moment, Heim's the dude unless something stupid happens.
500 plate appearances or 501 for Heim last year. It's huge. Interesting. Like I think and I don't know, well, ATC, like I'm not sure which source it's using for these projections, but Heim fell apart in the second half after like a pretty bad wrist strain in July. Like I think that certainly played a role. And I wonder if projection systems that we're all looking at is factoring that in. I would obviously much prefer the first half, but I think that's closer to the real Jonah Heim than the second half. And they're going, Heim and Garver are like going 6 picks apart. There's Keeper Ruiz in between them. Just real quick, like different profile, but is he?
I like Keeper out of those three.
More than Heim and Garver.
Yes. Keeper last year, let me just pull it up so I don't completely speak out of my rear end. But again, similar to Heim, there's really no one to take the role from Keeper, but what we saw last year as a healthy player, 136 games, 562 at bats. I could see him screech that a little more there because he hits so well. 260 average. He's a better hitter than his lowest BABIP he's had since his 2 games he played in his career. The power showed up last year, 18 home runs. So he's not just he has the same power metrics as Jonah Heim. Essentially, Heim will have potentially more run production if you want that argument in there. I just think Ruiz has a much better batting average than 260. I think we can see an improvement, and if we see that, then the county stats will come with it.
I like it. So, like you said, tons of options.
But Heim and Ruiz, it is really close. I'm not going to try to nitpick that one too much. Both over Garver. All right, my debate here. This is kind of for you. This is cute. We're doing little debates for each other without even trying to, I guess. But I am curious. Yu Darvish. We talked about him in the SP show. I think it was SP, probably the third one. Debate talking about how the injuries, but he still had strikeouts. The ratios were whack, but indicators suggested he was kind of better than he was, type thing. So it depends on what you want to believe. Let's put it that way. Then you have Nate Eovaldi. Nate was great. Then he got hurt.
Till he wasn't.
Stop me if you've heard this before. And then he came back and it was really not great. Somehow found a little more velocity in the postseason. And now he's already making spring training Twitter go a buzz. So, Darvish, Nate the Great, and they're going about 9 picks apart. Darvish going ahead of Eovaldi.
I lean Eovaldi. I think the play here. So, I'm just worried about Darvish in terms of the age. This is Darvish's age 37 season. And obviously the injury risk that comes with that. Darvish has a lengthy injury risk, yada, yada. But just a steady decline in Darvish's skills. The strikeout rate, the last 4 years, 31, 29, 26, 25%, 23% in the second half of last year. Swinging strike rate, 15, 12.5, 12, 11, and then 10.5 in the second half last year. Just skills that are declining, and at 37 years old, I don't see the positive regression that we might see with a hitter. I think Darvish, I don't know. I'm not that high on him, and honestly, I'm not that high on Eovaldi either. But I think the play here, this kind of feels like deja vu. If Eovaldi can maintain the velocity that we've seen throughout all of spring training, I think the play is just, assuming that velocity is there for Eovaldi, just ride him in the first half and be ready to dump and go in the second half. This is exactly what we saw last year, where Eovaldi was pumping 95 at the end of spring training. I was like, all right, I'm back in. He seems healthy. And coming off a 2022 season where it was very similar to the end of 2023, ended it hurt, lower velocity, yada, yada. Just feel like that's something where you kind of ride Eovaldi and you get the good stats while you can, but just have that drop button ready at the first sign of obviously injury or even velocity decline for Eovaldi midway through the season.
Not gonna argue with you on that one, because especially the whole concept of draft him and then get ready to drop him thing. I'm with you there. I still like Yu Darvish. I know I've said it before. I bought him I don't know what the proper terminology is, I won him in the auction on.
You bought him. You got him.
I don't know what the proper terminology is without pissing someone off. I got it for $9.
You acquired his stats.
Yeah, on the second auction we did, and his AAV $7. I overspent a little bit, but I didn't want a dollar pitcher. I wanted somebody I could kind of trust, and I think there's still some there because yes, the drop in strikeouts and swinging strike and stuff isn't great, but still, they're on a whole lot of 26% K pitchers right, as we keep going down this list. So I'll take my chances there. And he still threw innings last year. And I remember very clearly he had like Aaron Nola syndrome in some of those starts. He'd be out there to get blown up in an inning. That's just so annoying. This is what DFS comes into play, just remembering those so vividly. Now he is getting older. It is a concern. He has been kind of dealing with a little more injuries from here time to time. I just feel like he's going to throw and throw and throw until he can't throw anymore. So I lean Darvish, but I get your Valdi concept. Let's put it that way.
I fully admit that I'm lower on Darvish than, I don't want to say everyone else, but than your average person.
All right. Now things get juicy because I just looked at Ryan's targets in this range, and I'll sign off on all of them pretty much. And I think I could have written them all down. So let's kick it off. We have 3 targets each, 3 fades each. Who is your first target in this range?
This is just me longing for a third baseman that's on a team after my labor draft. Roll this Chapman
is that together.
Matt Chapman is he's linked to your boys, to San Francisco. Like that seems like that's the likeliest landing spot.
Tell me a player that hasn't been linked to our guys that side.
Touche. Point taken. I'm going Jake Berger at ADP of 155 at third base. I mentioned the plethora of power that's available in the hitter side of this pocket. Berger, I think, is going to get you that power without draining your batting average. Upside of 40 home runs, 265 batting average in Baseball HQ's Baseball Forecaster this year. I did not write that one, right? Yeah, Greg Pyron wrote that one. Another kind of first half, second half split guy. And if I'm going to dive into those first half, second half splits, I want to see like a reason to be able to do that. And with Jake Berger, it was getting moved from the White Sox, who just kind of jerked him around and for whatever reason didn't play him all the time, to settling into a regular role in Miami. We saw the strikeout rate drop dramatically for Jake Berger once he went to Miami without really sacrificing the power. And I think that's huge. I think the power is there, but more importantly, like I think he can hit you 250, 260 and approach 30 home runs. And at this point in the draft, especially at third base, I think that's super important. So Jake Berger has been one of yours too. One of my bigger targets of the draft in this range.
Yep. Full send on that one. I'm all aboard the Jake Berger train. I don't have many shares. I feel like I need to get more aggressive, but it also comes down to me saying catchers. There's some outfielders here to give you like a third or fourth outfielder, and then the pitching. I somehow don't land on Jake Berger. Plus, so many Machado and Bregman shares early on. I don't even think about Jake Berger.
You do have a lot of Machado and Bregman.
So I think that's why I love doing these shows is maybe I should change something up there and then trying to make Berger a focus here type thing. That because all that power and still the average, like the average is actually kind of similar to Bregman's, more power than Bregman. Counting stats are down compared to Bregman, but depends on what your team build's looking for. That's kind of interesting actually. The more I think about it, so something to look into while drafting. There's still about a month to go here before that's all said and done.
And just real quick, third base around because I'm just obsessed with third base now.
Yeah, that's your new position. I have catchers. You have third base.
You got Josh Young right ahead of him. But after that, it's Noelvi Marte going around later, and then it's Max Muncy going 2 rounds later, and then it's Cabrian Hayes, who I kind of like, but there's I like Cabrian. Third base is kind of becoming a wasteland at this point, so it's just even more reason to go for go and eat your burger.
Very, very good. This one's simple. Like again, Chaz McCormick. This is the guy I've talked about on this show. But Bubba talked about James Anderson on the RotoWire show. I love everything about Chaz McCormick, and the biggest reason is he is supposed to play every single day, or at least be the primary outfielder with the Houston Astros, and that makes me very giddy. I'm going to double check and see where King Curland has him. He has him batting 6th. Excuse me. Versus right-handed pitchers, and he has him batting 8th versus left-handed pitchers. That 6 for his righty sounds real juicy, honestly, for all things considered. And what I love is 115 games last year, 22 homers, 19 steals, 70 RBIs, 59 runs, hit 273. That's a great stat line for 115 games. And the projections just don't show the proper love. ATC's bumped him up to 130 games, but still 20 and 16 at 253. The bat, 127 games, 17, 14, 249. There's certain players that I just will never agree with projections on. And I think there's players like that for a lot of people. And McCormick is one of them. It's the 2020 dude, decent average. Counting stats should be pretty solid. Even if, like, he's an 80-80, like at least 160 to 170 runs in RBIs, I think, at least, with 2020 upside and a 270-ish average. I maybe I'm biased and just talked myself into him all offseason, and I'm there. But if he plays 140 plus games, maybe 150 plus games with the Astros, there's no reason McCormick can't be to me, an amazing play at this price range.
I think the projections, again, me just speaking for projections, this is a 29. So Chaz McCormick was 28 last year, and really before that had not done much at all in the majors. So like the projections are, even though everything you just said I agree with, even though the skills back what Chaz McCormick did last year, like at HQ, the expected homers for McCormick was 21 compared to 22 actual, and 17 expected stolen bases compared to 19. Even though the skills back what Chaz McCormick did last year, the projections, and I see a guy who's entering his age 29 season who really hasn't done anything outside of 1 year. And so the projections, I think, are just baking in kind of that longer term regression. But we see all the time where, guys are late bloomers, and, Chaz McCormick really hasn't been given a chance to play every day.
That's my biggest
throughout
thing.
his career either.
Yeah,
so
like, I'm not disagreeing with the age thing, because yes, that's very true. But what you just said was what I've been waiting to say, but you said it first, is he hasn't given a chance. So it's tough to prove type thing.
It's the classic, he can't hit lefties. Have you ever tried to hit lefties? Nah. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Chaz is fine here, and as someone who has waited on outfield in almost every draft, I sign off on that. I also sign off on Ian Happ, who's my next target, going right next to Chaz McCormick, 158 ADP to 159. Low ceiling with Ian Happ. I would say we know what we're getting, but we kind of don't. We know we're going to get production. Will it be batting average or home runs? I feel like it'll be one of the two. It always has been over the course of Happ's career. But even with the Cody Bellinger signing back now in Chicago, like, the Cubs lineup, I think, is going to be great. And Ian Happ is just playing. He's got the Marcus Semien disease. Like, it's a bad thing. The Marcus Semien
syndrome
work ethic, where he is in the lineup every single day, and you just accumulate those plate appearances. And though Ian Happ doesn't have like a true standout skill, if you can get over 600 plate appearances, which Ian Happ has done that like each of the last 2 years, 641 and 691, good things will come. So Ian Happ is one of the more stable outfielders out there, and well-rounded, if you are waiting on outfield and need to grab some guys. So would love to even double tap Happ and Chaz back to back if you can, if you're waiting on outfield. I think it works.
Happ and Chaz would be it's almost like happenstance for Happ and Chaz. So
no.
That was a stretch, but I'm gonna roll with it. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, they asked if it was a walk year for Ian Happ in the chat. He's a free agent at 27, so he's sticking around a bit longer on that one. Something to think about.
Adam also says, which is also an NL Central related takeaway, Ian Happ's numbers are going to tick down because he doesn't have Adam Wainwright to hit off this year. Very true. Maybe the entire Cubs offense regresses because of that.
I love that Cubs team. I have so many Cubs underdog stacks because they're so easy and affordable. It's very, very nice. All right, my next player here. You guys want to sit down? I'm going to light a candle, and we're going to talk.
I'm going to go refill my water.
Yeah, we're going to wax poetic about Logan O'Hoppe. To me, one of the best. If Ryan's not kidding, he's refilling his water. One of the best catchers on the board, in my opinion. And last year, I was all in on William Contreras, said he'd be a top 5 catcher. Well, he's number 1 last year. Logan O'Hoppe is a top 5 catcher next year. I'm going to go to bat for that one. 14 home runs last year, 236 average. We know the story. Dude came out crushing, gets a just ridiculous injury that really shouldn't even, most people thought wasn't come back and play during the season. But the boy got it done. He basically he played 16 games through April, didn't come back till August, played 9 games in August, but then in September and October played 26 games. And he ended up hitting, in that month alone, hit 258 with 9 of his 14 home runs in September and October. Just mashed, did all his production in that time frame. And that's what gives me a ton of hope with Logan O'Hoppe, because that was the expectations we had when he was traded over from Philadelphia. We saw just it's hard to say second half numbers, but a 264 ISO in both halves, first half and second half. First half, again, 16 games. He did that damage in the second half with a 209 BABIP, and he crushed. It was just glorious. And given it's that the 9 games in August when he first came back, when again most thought he shouldn't have come back, they were horrific. So even though he had 26 games in September, October, it weights it down big time. So you guys have heard me wax about O'Hoppe a ton. I just love everything about him. The skill set at the plate, so much power, decent batting average. He's going to hit in the middle of the Anaheim order. Should play primarily like every single day. Like projections, ATC, 21 homers, 2 steals, 253 over 112 games. Like, let's just pull up the Angels roster real quick, because
I'd take the over on the power, over 21 homers, I think.
Because here's my thing is, right now, Kirtland versus righties has Brandon Drury DHing. I think O'Hoppe might squeeze a few out of that one. And then if you want to go to the flip side against lefties where he does damage, they have Joe Adell DHing. So my point is, Logan O'Hoppe is a better hitter than both of them. So when we speculate with catchers with extra value, it's catchers that DH. Tell me in what world Logan O'Hoppe can't play over Drury or Adell, either way, in a DH position. So back to the projections about O'Hoppe saying 113 games, I'd be willing to say we see 130 plus barring an injury. And in that case, we're talking 25 plus bombs. We're talking even still decent counting stats on an Angels team that's not going to be great, and like a 255 average. This is good stuff from Logan O'Hoppe. This is the stuff you want later in your draft. This is one of your top catchers in fantasy next season. So Logan O'Hoppe.
Ahead of, so you haven't listed Bo Naylor, but I'm assuming you have O'Hoppe ahead of the catchers we've talked about. Heim, Garver, Ruiz. Do you have him ahead of Bo Naylor as well?
Yes. O'Hoppe is the guy. If I can leave every draft with one catcher, I want Logan O'Hoppe.
All right.
Based on price tag and production. That's all. Oh yeah, no, I don't have him anywhere listeners drafted with me. So that's fair.
Go forth and O'Hoppe.
I was impressed though. My little listeners, they let me down actually on the second draft auction we did, because I got Yainer Diaz and Bo Naylor in that one. So that felt good. Like that was a good feeling. It was $22 for the two of them. And in reality, I'll take that all day long. So yeah.
My league bid up Christopher Sanchez, who had an average of $4. Dude went for 10.
So. I can't remember the number now. Rengifa went for I think it was like 13 or $14 or something in my first one. Not as high in the second one. He still went for higher than he should have, but the first one was just pure comedy. Like it was like, being in the heart of Atlanta at 3 a.m, eating chicken wings and throwing dollar bills. It was wild. So yeah.
I've actually done that.
You've done that before?
I've been in that situation before in Atlanta.
All right. On that note, who's your next target?
Actually, that not the Atlanta thing. I like to. I'll probably do we'll do a Bubba in the Bloom average auction value across our 4 leagues, and I'd be interested to see who bubbles up compared to the NFBC average. I think I'll do that.
That'd be a fun bloom board. I think that's because I think that was the biggest takeaway, given you and I are so new at auctions, but just watching some of the money flying out the gate, it was wild. But that was and everybody filled up. Like, it's just so fun watching how teams get built in an auction. So just insanely different than just knowing the ADP, basically.
Yep.
So it's fun.
My last one's tomorrow, so we're on
Wednesday for Bloomfield.
on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yep. Not streamed.
All right. No, not streamed. Not streamed.
That wasn't a slight. That was just letting people know don't look to tune in for it.
Don't look for it for my kitchen table. Nick Pfaadt is my last target. I don't want to repeat myself so much from earlier episodes, but to me at least, not only just Pfaadt himself, and I've talked about the midseason pitch mix change, the velocity increase, the fact that Pfaadt had the second highest strikeout minus walk ratio of any pitcher in baseball after Freddie Peralta in the second half last year. But for me, it's also that Pfaadt stands out going around like guys I don't really like. Gavin Williams, Jose Barrios, Christian Javier, Mitch Keller. Like, they're not bad. They're just kind of like blah. The fact that I like Pfaadt so much, and the fact that I'm just not a huge fan of a lot of the pitchers going in this pocket, just even further makes Pfaadt for me a priority in my drafts. So,
yep, I like Pfaadt a lot, and one of the biggest reasons I like Pfaadt is a staple of mine, and it deteriorates as the season goes on. I want as many strikeouts as I can get, and Pfaadt is one of the biggest strikeout guys in this window. He was on a lot of your boards in the second half of the season, K to walk boards. Like, big Pfaadt fan. And the Red Sox need him, so they're not going to be able to. Like last year, they took him out of the rotation for the bullpen for a few times, and they did the opener thing with him, and eventually got back to the rotation. They need him to pitch this year. They don't have a lot of choices,
and I think he can take what he did in the bullpen last year, and it was a long roll, and apply that to start.
He finished the year doing that one.
Yeah, he ended the season 5 straight starts and dominated. Yep. So I'm not really that worried about it.
Yep, 100% with you on that one. My last one, it's a broken record too. Like, this is a guy I'm trying to get everywhere I can. I've been every underdog draft I can think of right now because he's still too cheap in that. And that's Brendan Pfaadt, and it's just a combination of like there's the part that worries me that this year's Christian Javier, because we're seeing the postseason success run rampant. Like, that part is kind of scary, yes, but it was more the development of Pfaadt as the season went on this year. The hype train through spring training, gets the call, struggles, gets sent back down, gets the call back, struggles, gets sent back down, gets the call again, little bumpy, but you could see the improvements, and he kept going and going and finished on a really strong note, like where the ratio is elite as the season went on. No, still finished the 4.32 ERA in the last month of the year. August had a 4 ERA though. That was good to see, and that's just improvements from what we saw in the first half. I don't have his postseason numbers in front of me. I apologize, but the other thing I loved tremendously, we saw, early in the season, 16.8, 20%, 18.4% by monthly K percentage. When he got the call back in August, 24.3%, 16.4% K to walk. In September, 27.3% K rate, 23.6% K to walk, 3.7 xFIP. Those improvements, like as the season went on, watching the maturity of a young arm at the big league level, getting better and better. Like, obviously, he went to AAA to work on things, but came back and executed, was tremendous. He was one of the top pitchers for the Diamondbacks in their postseason run, got them to where they were, went on the big stage, threw 5 innings and dived. Like, it was amazing to see. So I'm buying into it. Young guy, looking for the next step with him. Like, he's going to be 26 this year. Like, I'm all in on Brendan Pfaadt at this time. Like, we're all these other pitchers here. Give me the young kid that could take another step. Give me that guy over taking a chance on Valdi staying healthy. Bueller, who knows when he's coming back. Even you, Darvish, who I talked about, he's going right in that range. Give
Shane
me
Bieber. Shane Bieber's going right after Brendan Pfaadt. That's while you were talking, that's the big thing that I noticed was, like, unless Pfaadt just totally craps the bed again, like, he's the innings leader over the literal 4 injury risks that he's sandwiched between Darvish, Bueller, Evaldi, and Bieber.
Yeah, like, look at that. They have him for 136 strikeouts. Like, no, I'm sorry. That ain't gonna happen. And I know it's probably because, let me check his thing. Yeah, they have him for 142 innings. That's almost a K per inning. But the dude threw 90. He threw 156 innings plus the postseason last year. The dude stretched out. Like, we're getting 170, 180 out of him, I think. So, it's nice to have at this point in the draft. I like Brendan Pfaadt quite a bit.
couple comments kind of as we finish out the target part. We did not discuss Ryan Pepio, but both Adam and the Knob. I know that's probably not your username, but we just call you the Knob. If you want us to call you something else, let us know.
Nope, it's too late. It's too late.
Yeah,
or
not.
Yeah,
or not. The Knob. There's been some chat about Ryan Pepio, who I think is actually a pretty good buy at this range. Never been a big Pepio guy. I don't buy the random improved walk rate. Curious to see what LA was limiting. Adam says, I think Ryan Pepio is poised for a big year moving to Tampa. So just some interesting comments there. Brandon Pfaadt from the Knob as well. One thing with Pfaadt, even though during the improvements down the playoff stretch, he still struggled against lefties. So that is something to monitor, as the analysts say.
Yeah. The Pepio thing also quick. Like, I was pounding that drum every weekend on this show for streaming options. The Pepio. I'm just curious more so on the innings workload Tampa Bay gives him. That's just kind of my only real holdback on him. So we'll see.
Yeah. How many did Pepio throw last year? Where are we at? 66. That's not a lot.
Yeah, that's my concern. Because they babied him so much in LA. Like, it was rough. That would be my only concern with these other pitchers in the same area.
Yep, that's fair.
All right, what do you got for fades?
This is a new fade.
I'm glad I only saw. I'm gonna say all I saw was the name at first. I had to move my paper over, and then I'm like, okay, I can slide. I can let this slide for now.
Had to make sure your stone tablet, your chisel over there was.
It took a second to move it. It's heavy, but I had to check it out real quick.
It's Jordan Montgomery, and this sounds like blasphemy on the Bubba and the Bloom podcast to even speak of Jomo as a fade. I don't know about you, man, but like, we are approaching a critical time where like he needs to sign. Mm-hmm. And if Jomo does not sign like very quickly, I don't know if he starts on opening day or like starts in the rotation by opening day. What if Jordan Montgomery doesn't sign for another week or two? Or, I mean, and I'm going to leave Blake Snell into the same exact conversation. I know Blake Snell's going much, much earlier, but like, it's just something that like, it's go time. These guys, if they don't sign like very, very soon, they are probably not starting the year in major league rotations. And for someone like Jordan Montgomery, who, yeah, the per inning stuff is going to be okay, but you really rely on Jordan Montgomery for that volume. I just wonder, like, what's a worst case? Like we saw a few years ago, like Craig Kimbrell, and I know reliever's a little bit different than a starter, but like Craig Kimbrell didn't sign until the middle of the season. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Montgomery or Snell, but like we are now at the point where I'm now worried about these guys signing and their availability for opening day.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. Like, it sucks. I love Jomo. Heck, on the first auction I have Jomo and Snell, so that's fun.
The Knob says Dallas Keuchel. I forgot about this. Yes, back when Dallas Keuchel was an asset. Dallas Keuchel was that same Kimbrell year as well. He not held out, but I guess he did. So
yeah, I agree. There's concerns here. I think we see both these guys in a camp by the end of the week. I know it's still late. I get it's still late, but
we could have said that last week too.
I just have a feeling with the Bellinger thing and some other injuries popping up for pitchers, we're going to start seeing some movement here. I think even the players know that they need to get into a camp here pretty soon at this point, pitching wise. So we'll see. I'm optimistic on it happening soon. Don't disagree with your thought process. If I were to be, say, doing an auction on Wednesday night, I still enjoy the Jomo discount. He's relatively affordable. So
I'll raise your Jomo and Blake Snell from your first auction with a Kodai Senga, who I took in my first auction. So $22 down the toilet.
You got a PRP. You might be back by June. You're good.
Yeah, he's one of my early drops, I think.
Just being optimistic for you there. All right, my first one should come at no surprise for anybody, and I almost acquired him on my auction on Monday night, but someone outbid me by $1. and that's Luis Ariz. And this is a pretty simple one for me. I've said it time and time again. We talk about not wanting rabbits on our team. Luis Ariz is essentially a rabbit with batting average. That's who he is because he doesn't run. He's the rabbit version of average. I don't know if it's like the Energizer bunny that just keeps going and going and going. I don't know how to actually say it properly because rabbits run. He doesn't run. But he's going to hit for a great average, barring insanity. He's at over 305 out of 4 out of 5 seasons, 294 or better all 5 seasons. That's pretty dang impressive. Like he's going to hit over 300, which is great. You know, Ryan's been banging the average drum. It's stuck in my head now as Freeman has really been an interesting part of my builds of late. But no speed. The context in Miami, 71 runs, 16 RBIs, honestly, is not bad for what he does. 10 homers for the first time in his career. Don't plan on that again. So I'm not drafting a strictly batting average guy. That's just not me. So no Luis Ariz for me.
Would be curious to see if you take Kyle Schwarber plus Arias, take that average of what they do.
I think someone's like throwing that out there, but I don't think anybody's put it like on paper.
Yeah, I would do it, but that would be bad podcasting. So maybe on Thursday I'll follow up. But I wonder what that like combo of stats would look like. But again, like it's easy to play that game, but if one of the two gets hurt from a roster balance construction, you're screwed. So
or if you take Schwarber and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to wait and get Ariz, then someone else jumps you on Ariz. Oh, now we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I guess that'd be auction based, I guess, to make sure you get them.
Then you're stuck with my fade maybe as a backup, which is I'm going to catchers. It's the one catcher we haven't talked about. So I'm interested your rebuttal, your opinion on this, but Gabriel Moreno, I think like is the Luis Arias of catchers. Fully knowing that this will be Moreno's age 24 season, there could be some type of power step up to be had, but honestly, like the power skills that Moreno showed in the minors weren't there. I mean, 7 home runs over 380 plate appearances last year, man. Like there's a 5% barrel rate. Like there's not any power here. And yes, Gabriel Moreno hit 284 last season, but that was like a 350 BABIP. The K rate was just kind of okay. This isn't an Arias type of like approach where he just makes contact all the time to get to that plus batting average. I worry like if the batting average falls, I'd take the under on 286, which is the projection. If the batting average falls to like 270, what are you really doing here?
Yep. Especially
when you have, I mean, you just waxed poetic about O'Hoppe and Naylor, and there's so many, I think, better options at catcher in this group than Moreno, who's actually going earlier than every other catcher we talked about. So for that reason, Moreno is a fade for me.
Yeah, out of most of the catchers we talked about here, I probably would have Moreno at the bottom of them. I love what we saw in the postseason. That was great. I just don't know if it's sustainable because one of his hitting profiles we talked about, he's a big gap-to-gap guy. And in Arizona, that will just take away all his home run upside. Like it just destroys his home run power. We saw him pull the ball more in the postseason, which was big. But can he do it for a full season? I don't know. He's going to have a good average. That's cool. So if you want like Keibert Ruiz before you could hit for power, that's Gabby. I just don't. I'd rather have, Keibert and all these other guys we talked about.
And I think the postseason tax is real.
Oh, 100%.
You mentioned the postseason. Like, I actually think that's a bad thing. Like, that's probably elevated. Yeah, same with Evan Carter. It was another fade of mine, but like, yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Real quick, the knob in the chat says Schwarber plus Arias, 274 batting average, and maybe 50 homers between the two.
Yeah.
So 25 homers, not many steals, but
that's pretty good.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you can pull it off, might play. That's for sure. All right, for me, it's Max Muncy. Anti-Max Muncy. That's just not a shocker to anybody. Yeah, he hit 36 home runs. That's great. Congratulations. 106 RBI, 105 RBIs, 95 runs. That's awesome. 212 average. Not a fan there. And the concern I have, which we've talked about before, is this little thing called splits. And people say, oh, they're not, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Muncy hit 155 versus lefties, 237 versus righties. That's good. He had 11 home runs versus lefties, 25 versus righties. Okay. Where it really stands out, though, if you go to the deeper stats here, We had a 642 OPS versus lefties compared to 881, 76 WRC plus compared to 136, a 122 BABIP compared to 269. Like, these are just drastic drop-offs. The Dodgers are made to platoon most positions. They have some really good platoon options versus left-handed pitching now. They don't have to play Muncy right now. Muncy's getting older. This is just not something that has to be out there every day with Max Muncy. So I'm passing. People like to think, I can just plug in 30-plus home runs and, maybe. But I'm not going to take that chance. I'll pass on Max Muncy.
And, he's definitely one of those batting average drains. Actually, by far the lowest batting average projection of anyone in this group by almost 10 points. So he's going to kill you in batting average. I wonder if you'll get that itchy finger in tout on Tuesday, man. At
OBP, the little different, yes.
That's one of the risers.
I'm worried about playing time. I'm worried about playing time.
Yeah, that holds. I was going to look up his strikeout rate because I don't think you listed his strikeout rate.
I got it right here. You want it?
Against lefties. I from what I remember, it was atrocious.
It actually was worse versus righties. It was 23.4% K rate versus lefties, 27.7% against righties.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just couldn't.
I thought it was
just
atrocious.
Didn't hit lefties with authority, basically, is the nicest way I can say it.
Yeah. Well, and what was the BABIP? Like 122?
122 versus lefties, 269 versus righties. And that's without a shift this past year, folks. So put that in the back of your mind.
Interesting. Actually, okay. Interesting. Yeah. I thought it was atrocious against lefties. I stand corrected.
Nope. All right. Who's your final fade on the list? And I support this one.
It's Tommy Edman, who normally I kind of like Tommy Edman, but I think kind of the writing's on the wall with Tommy Edman. I feel like his early ADP has been inflated because he plays second, short, and outfield. And I think in like draft and holds and things like that is valuable. I don't have his OPS. I think from a real life standpoint, Tommy Edman with other alternatives in St. Louis, like may not be a full-time player. We've already seen, I said, the writing on the wall. We've seen that drop in the batting order. And he's coming off wrist surgery. Surgery or an injury, for something with his wrist that
might not be ready for opening.
Might not even be ready for opening day. And if he does make opening day, it's like how effective can he be? Again, from a real baseball standpoint, where I think if Tommy Edman, he wasn't a power hitter before, but if he has like no power right now, what is this guy from can you play him every day as a St. Louis Cardinal? So I think the steals will still be there. I just don't know what else you're getting there with the uncertainty surrounding the wrist.
Yep. I don't have to say much more. I've never really been an Edman guy. So
yeah,
you're nailing it.
I have been. I'm turning my back on him, but
yep. He's not going to be that leadoff dude that plays every day anymore. So get used to it, folks. My final one is maybe controversial to some, but it's Masataka Yoshida for me. And this is just it's kind of just, I don't know, going to be 30 years old. Last year in his debut though, so maybe there's something there, but 289, 15 homers, 71 runs, 72 RBIs, 8 steals. Okay, that's good. You know what that sounds like, Ryan?
Who does that sound like?
Alex Verdugo. We've seen Benintendi do similar things. It's like a good, probably real life player because he's got a 338 OBP, but in the end, not doing a ton for your fantasy team compared to other options, especially in 12s. Like that's just like a stat line that you can rotate around with. You can do things like it's good. The average, especially the average, will help. I'm not gonna say the average won't help, but the quote unquote power, speed, counting stats, they're good, but they're not like gonna be game changers for your team, especially in this range. Like I'd almost rather take a chance on Brandon Demo in this range. More power, more runs scored. Maybe steals the same amount of bases or more, little less batting average type thing, and he's going after him. I'd rather take chances on Christopher Morel, even James Outman probably going in front of him. Yoshida's like a good real-life player, just doesn't have that elite skill set, which gets my attention.
And not even in this pocket, but the next pocket, there's my man Starling Marte, but then there's Jared Kelenic, there's Kerry Carpenter, Taylor Ward, Lourdes Gurriel.
I like all those guys. Yes,
Luis Rengifo. We can't go a full episode without
a
Luis Rengifo mention. But yeah, there are plenty of other alternatives, and yeah, I do think the Alex Verdugo syndrome could be alive and well here with Yoshida. Also was another one where I do look at first, second half stats splits because this was his first year in the majors in 2023. Pretty much collapsed in the second half as kind of the book got out on Yoshida.
The opposite of Seiya Suzuki.
Correct. In many ways.
All right. Any final thoughts on this range before we take listener questions? I think we kind of hit on them, but
yeah, no, and I think, and it's always funny kind of what I say entering the episode versus after we've kind of gone through the guys, but in my opinion, what I said at the beginning still stands here.
Yep. 100% with you on that one. All right, listener questions here. We got Adam Reckamp, who's in the chat, has a Twitter question for us. Are you guys buying the Brian Hayes hype so far this spring? He had a good second half last year. He's hitting the ball hard this spring. Thanks as always. Yeah, even before spring, I was buying the second half adjustments. I was buying the second half adjustments with the affordable ADP. I was buying that adjustments with the ADP at a third base position that really continues to dwindle after him in a draft. So yeah, I'm in on Hayes. I've been saying it for years now. Just show me the adjustments, and I'm at least interested. He showed me enough, I think. So I'm in. I don't know about you.
Agreed. I mean, I still like Jake Berger more than Hayes, but
100%.
Hayes is going 30 picks later. So, it's not because of the spring. Like, I didn't even know there was hype around Brian Hayes over the spring, but it's more what we saw from Hayes last year. And I've mentioned this a couple times, but I'll just throw it in there again. Do think the top half of Pittsburgh's lineup won't be that bad this year. You're hitting around O'Neill Cruz, Brian Reynolds, those types of guys. So team context isn't as awful as you might think.
Yep, 100%. There are fantasy viable pieces. Larry C asks, at this ADP range, I have a question about Jackson Holiday, who is actually going here at, I just saw it. Where did it go?
He's in there at 179.
Yeah, 179. And other top prospects. What round would you begin targeting some of these young prospects like Holiday, Trio, and Langford?
I mean, I feel like we're the wrong people to ask, man. Like, we just don't do it. So, like, Jackson Holiday is going right next to Trevor Story. Like, I'm taking Trevor Story every time. But again, like that, and I'm speaking for you two, that could be a fault in our. We don't take those risks on some of these guys. Everything I hear about Wyatt Langford is like, there was a Jeff Passan article out today on ESPN that Wyatt Langford like probably should have been on Texas's team last year for their World Series run. Yep. Like, he's one of their best hitters already, which, if that's even 80% true, like, good God. But so I don't know. And then Churio is like this otherworldly talent who has already locked up his extension and is probably starting on opening day. There's very little playing time uncertainty. Like, sky's the limit for that kid. It's just I don't know. I never bet on that stuff happening in redraft leagues. And it's burned me. It's burned me in the past, but it's also not burned me as well. Like, we did not fall for Jordan Walker last year.
Yep. Langford's got a 135 ADP in OCs over the last 15 drafts, right in front of Jarren Duran, Anthony Santander. And if you're talking outfielders, the Guilds did say on Bench with Bubba this week that Langford is a guy he's buying in on for the hype. So take for that what you will.
Yep.
I'm curious, like you said, the comments that Passan made are actually pretty telling, to say the least, if it's true. Trio, on the other hand, he's going even higher. He's at 119. That's just like right next to Teoscar, like those kind of guys. That
blasphemy. Yeah, can't pass on Teoscar.
Can't go there. Langford, I could see an argument for. The other Holiday and Trio, it's going to be very tricky to see them come on my squad.
Yep.
We got a guy named Corbin Young asking about Mitch. No, he's not asking about Mitch Keller. Our buddy Corbin Young says 1 to 2 avoids on the hitter and pitcher list better not be Mitch Keller. So give me 1 avoid on a hitter and 1 avoid on the pitcher.
Who we haven't already talked about.
Or you could pick your top avoid and on each one.
I think an avoid is Riley Green. We haven't talked about.
Yeah,
like not a hard avoid for me, but someone who I'm off of. Pitcher side, like. Or sorry, go ahead on the hitter.
I was gonna say Luis Ariz from. I know I already talked about him, but yeah, he's out.
Is that your chiseled tablet there?
Yep. Oh, sorry, am I blocking the screen?
I just saw it. That's good stuff. Another fade who we haven't talked about on the pitcher side. I'll go Gavin Williams. Okay. I think the long-term talent is absolutely there, but similar to what we were talking about, if I'm just looking at the major league skills that we saw from Gavin Williams last year, I think he's overpriced. Like I'm taking Nick Pfaadt over Gavin Williams, and they're relatively the same ADP.
Like the lazy answers, Kodai Senga or Walker Buehler. I'm not going to go with those though.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna say Christian Javier. That fastball is way too hittable these days. Prove me wrong, Christian. That's what I'll say. Prove me wrong, please. But that fastball, way too hittable these days, and that's just not a recipe for success. At least not on my fantasy teams.
And good luck to Corbin on Wednesday, who's up for Writer of the Year for baseball. And
he's a good one. Corbin's a good dude, good analyst, good everything. So enjoy that. At Futures Bet says most likely better on the list to hit 40 home runs. Nolan Gorman? ? I think it's Jake Berger or Christopher Morel.
Yeah, it's definitely Jake Berger. Nolan Gorman freaks me out. Just the back issues. I know he's on this like nutrition thing, diet, I guess it's called. I wouldn't really know, but like, I don't know. Nolan Gorman's an injury risk for me. I'll go Jorge Soler. I'll go your boy. Would be my non-Burger option.
Yeah, I go. I can't describe. I've always said Morel. I'd take some over/under home run props. Him and Berger would be some fun stuff there. But Gorman is interesting. Like Mason talked to me a while about him. He kind of gets me a little interested in Gorman. If you waited on second base, but you're cool with dropping things. He's interesting. I can see the appeal.
Yeah.
Thomas Travado has two questions here. First, or actually not anymore. Impact of Yoshida this year. Does he get to more power, or is he just Alex Verdugo? Didn't see this earlier. He's Alex Verdugo.
Same page.
Yep. And then he says, why are the projections not liking Darvish? I think it's because he's old. And he has declined. He has declined over the last 3 years.
Yeah, there are not many 37-year-old starting pitchers who, even though we've been spoiled by Max Scherzer and Verlander these last few years, it's very rare. And I'm sure the projections are just hammering Darvish for being 37 years old, as they should, given what I said about him earlier.
Yep. Fair enough on that one. All right, Bloomfield, another episode in the books. You have your final Listener League auction on Wednesday. Thursday, we do 200 at 250.
Yep.
Anything else we need to discuss on tonight's episode of Bubba and Bloom?
And then Tout Wars next Tuesday.
Ding, ding, ding.
Can't wait.
Literally. Wait till you see what Bloomfield's cooking up. It's all I'm pumped. I got a little peek at it.
Oh, don't oversell it, man.
Dude, I thought it was beautiful, but I'm also easy to please. But
exactly.
I thought it was great.
See if it draws in more viewers.
There's a reason that Bloomfield and I get along so well, as we both just kind of enjoy the silly things in life sometimes, and this is one of them. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, this one's bad, but we'll see. Why not? We don't take ourselves all that seriously, so have a fun tout promo coming is what we're alluding to.
And keep an eye on Twitter at the FSWA Twitter account. Cross your fingers, whatever. But hey, it was fun. We boys can dream. But regardless, besides the show, Ryan's nominated for another writing award also. So don't let him continue to put that one under the rug when we talk about things. So got that. Nobody cares about this, but we're at the end of the episode. Last year I was a finalist for Writer of the Year, Article of the Year, and Series of the Year. 0 for 3 on award day, which whatever, it's fine. You're saying you're due. I've been an 11-time finalist. I've won twice. So that's probably average, because on average there's like 5. There's 5 finalists. So
yeah. Hey. whatever.
See what happens.
Congrats
Never
to
know.
everyone who was nominated, finalist, and
A lot of good
to the
people
Winners
out
Wednesday.
there.
It's a really cool thing.
Yep, a lot of cool people out there. So have fun with that.
Yep.
Have fun if you're in the draft with Ryan on Wednesday. We'll be back with you guys Thursday. But for now, this is Bubba and the Bloom, episode 112. Catch y'all later.